But the inn, too, was another experience altogether. You might even say it was incredible, or else infuriating. I just never before that been witness to interfeminine rivalry in such sinister and petty spectrum. However, while there at the inn also, race proved paramount, if not the decisive factor in that whole grand calamity. Its sour taste wasn't left by the demographic that you might have guessed, unless, of course, you're a clever detective and somehow deduced from my mere mention of hotels and devised by these Chicago suburbs around which I struggle, that I developed a distinct disgust toward and came to despise the detestable Dharma doctrine of greedy, rapacious Hindu bugs. Indians control the franchise hotel market of greater Chicagoland suburbia, and between the Padre Catholic of its whole help and the older Hindu avuncular of its administration, two ancient intuitions, two of the world's oldest institutions, join in conversation against this great white devil. Now, as it has historically happened, if I don't wear out my any new welcome rather quickly, then the welcome is quickly worn out around me. Either way, though, I incur the cost of its depletion. At the inn, therefore, I tried to maintain a reserved detachment as long as I courteously could, and for a while this goal was easily enough achieved, inasmuch that in my independent role, the establishment's sole maintenance man, my days were here, there, and everywhere, with little loiter time to spare, and for as much, at least at first, as I was diligent to keep always industrious. Only so many times, though, can one politely refuse almuerza generosity and resist lunch-table society before it starts to seem like arrogance or hostility. So once, twice, the Monday after, and then the rest of next week, that eventually with the maids I was daily eating lunch. And at the scowl of the laundry staff, which very thing my independence was meant specifically to avoid, yet inevitably, notwithstanding, and before long and beyond my control, the cliques are tense and territorial, become postured before the others in my presence, the ladies are all catty, quicker, and everything's shot to hell. Prior to that, though, the crumbled context. Once a few lunches were enjoyed, shortly thereafter, suddenly, I had time to waste and small talk to share, here, there, and everywhere. And my enthusiastic effort, my earnest ethic, my hearty workmanship would soon suffer for it. So anyhow, I became friends with the maids, heard their stories, beheld their broken American hope, dreams of betterment that this place advertises unto the world, but mostly between its own borders, like Disney does its own programs and events on the nightly news that it owns, but which bootstrap promise has been lost to leeches and capitalist creatures of cultural cancer. That American dream, that now empty notion, fraudulent like the romanticism of Disney fairy tales, which obsession over the childhood of Never Never Land, which unicorn hush for the oh-so-darling innocence and wonderment and impressionability of young imagination, that the whole world need be made child-proof, even from sad thoughts, lest the world of someone's special child were ever shattered with harsh and bleak truth, and be made no more magical. How that it bears ever little likeness to cold reality, or life within the real world, because that happily ever after was maimed at Hiroshima, killed at Vietnam, its corpse desecrated at Columbine, and its grave pissed on by daily millions, in between rounds of sugary soda soft drinks and violent video game play, which distractions demand top dollar, commercializing the fun sport of killing in the name of duty's call. That severed American sentiment, believed in like idol worship, and imposed like Santa Claus, and empty like Xmas. Oh, hemorrhaging American heart, this bleeding American spirit, our brave American ambition, of which we've all been robbed, They too, those sad migrant women, they once chased it too, only to be broken, humiliated, enslaved, brainwashed psychotic with some weird Stockholm syndrome that they contracted economically, spirit suffocated and self-esteem starved into submission by putrid pagan polytheists like Namadi, the Indian owner of the hotel, and the dollar devotion of her dead doctrine, which Dharma designation delineated her disregard for compassion, for that duty is someone else's plight. Anyway, I became friendly at the inn with the helpless Hispanic help, beheld their thankless labor, their exploited circumstance, listened to their stories, each one a single mother, each raising children on her own, on minimum wage, the whip always upon their backs, at a hotel establishment with 72 rooms, operating at over 70% occupancy on average nightly, which nightly room rate included a bed, a television for 20 hours, a bed and a television for 20 hours, earliest check-in at 3, out by 11 the next day, a shower, a thin soap bar sliver, shampoo and conditioner, a fluid ounce apiece, an empty ice bucket, and a complimentary breakfast that was cheap and bland. Eggs of plastic rubber sausage, canned gravy on biscuit things like clumps of Play-Doh, and cinnamon rolls of thick, dark, spiced paste, frosted white in seeming sick. Polystyrene pastries, which at sea suffice as flotation devices. But which morning meal, even regarding the most gluttonous of guests, couldn't surpass $5 overhead cost without also approaching some heroic feat of gorging human hunger, and which high-end extraction, which swill ingestion to scale, the vast majority of visitors come nowhere near consuming. And all this, a bed, a bath, and a breakfast that becomes quickly blurred to consciousness for the violent bemoaning bowel bereavement that leaves one bedridden thereafter, all and only this for $115 a night in Oswego, Illinois. Insanity. The going rate on hotelhell.com, a partner of travelvoyeur.net/privacy invasion, the uncompetitive price set unanimous among rooms within the region by the haberdashery syndicate that controls the market. Anyway, though, I became friends with the migrant maids, heard of their hardships, recoiled of their tough toil, and, in natural course, as I am only dumb primate, like any, vaguely keen to karma, and so liable to be disgusted by flagrant injustice, I came to loathe the Hindu business ethic. Her healthcare heart is sweet and healing and altogether lovely. Her ruby maternal is medicine to somber, mournful eyes. Her medically inclined femininity, her daughters of Lady Dr. Dharma, the healing heraldry of half her Hindu heart, her sisters of the medical profession, they're soft and exceeding strong, gorgeous gems gilded in gold, sweet and beautiful people, benevolent, precious souls, of special, sensuous savor and priceless mineral among the earth's rare salt shades, and Amber Auntie, season me with her saffron scent. Let me undress her jasmine lady slipper, with one of Devi's daughters delight my desire. Warm me with her crimson fire, exalt, heal me with Shakti, allow me Kismet, her auspicious auburn. Let me, love me, lavish, set me free with karma like one of her lovely ladies, and on my knees I'll get me down and bless me Hare Krishna. Her business bugs, on the other hand, and as paradigm, are particularly parsimonious and the Indian economic is contemptible, as most ownership today among all commodity and commerce from all places and peoples of proprietorship is mostly scavenger and avaricious. At any rate, somewhere before the end of May, but not before Memorial Day, though I had not yet imagined any specific aim toward its instance or its premise unto plot, but because it had stewed in my mind, or rather festered, since Memorial Day of that same week, and as I liked its wordage, but did not nonetheless want to waste a notebook page on its still null invention, yet still did not want to utterly abandon its thought, as it should may somehow be poignant, at some spot, unto some purpose in prose, I typed on my cell phone and sent to me in a text, then also did so again this morning, the second of the two transmissions amidst the queue perusal of my listless queue scrolling, while in queue at the Pleasant Place, which I put forth again and received the second time, resending to myself these pretentious, presumptuous, ridiculous, petty, absurdly superfluous, pointless, but paradoxically somehow entirely pertinent paragraphs. I ask, is her establishment still so struggling to survive that the help in their scrubbing must still, after so many years, struggle under such scrutiny? For shame! Take caution. Immediately henceforth give grave concern to the trajectory of your current course. From the groans of immigrants and single mothers you accumulate unto yourself the curse, and accrue the cosmic economy of your inhumane commerce. And in your deplorable stinginess is savagery, for you steal meat of your maids' mouths, and the famine of their deficient flesh has fatly fed you. That your platter has been perpetually plenteous, and always full your fork, with which you have picked their flesh, and the flesh of their children, as sinew fresh from the bone. For you compensated them only to afford the cost of calorie, and never nutrition, while your continual criticism wearied their flesh with double worried woe, to take away all lightness and content and thankful industry from labor, and recuperation from rest, for that of their livelihood they could never be confident, nor ever whatsoever feel free from financial confinement, or once, via vacation, alleviate their severe vocation, or more whole and holistic on holiday heel. Their stolen substance is your pagan oblation unto the polytheism of your dead Dharma, which in fullest heart you followed, that you need never confront your never compassion, but justify their stern subjugation under you as by cosmic mandate, and like proselyte conversion, you gave your greedy soul unto profit's ruthless pursuit, as though it were merely and perpetually the problem of your apportioned plight, which but per penance you perform, and only to appease point of view, and not because it pleases you. Namadi had been on vacation both the week prior and the work week after Memorial Day, leading up to the ostentatious text message. She had monitored the maids and I from her Hawaiian hotspot all Memorial Day morning. And what's more, and substantially more pathetic, Namadi called the front desk several times before noon. But so in Oswego, the staff there, that we were made aware that over the facility's cameras, she was personally surveilling us. She was personally surveilling us under the sun and upon the sand of her tranquil Hawaiian retreat. Because that it was a national holiday, and the maids were on clock for time and a half of minimum wage, and me 1.5 times not much more. Namadi returned to the abominable bordello into her back office the next and first Monday of June. That very day, she and her little management team, Ron and Trixie, they had a conference call meeting in the hotel's rentable reception space that's lobby adjacent to the dining area. I was enjoying lunch with a few of the maids when their conference call adjourned. Of course, I cannot know with any certainty, yet I'm positive that Namadi, at the very least, was made aware of its gist, if not otherwise allowed to read word for word the substance of the text that I had sent just days prior on my cell phone from and unto myself. Perhaps amid that same meeting, out of which, during our lunch, she emerged, having been presented with the blunt, unmitigated, albeit astute, material of its critique. Out of the rentable little reception space, Namadi made beeline straight toward the table where we sat. Her manner, Namadi's charged emotion, her protuberance that she was strained to compose. It was like that of a dramatic teenage girl, indignant for the news that was just gossiped unto her, but also bound by promise. Made unto the gossiper, not to let it become known how, or that she was even aware at all, that she was even at all made aware that behind her back, and about her, another gossiper, had ill spoken. Her voice was shaky with the emotion that she suppressed, as though still surging with jaded adrenaline, angry, defensive, but forbidden from redressing what about herself she had heard. Feigning professional banter and friendly socialization among her own staff, the maids who hated her, and whom all Namadi too detested, looking upon the table, mustering an emphatic proclaiming how positively delicious the appearance of all the food thereon, yet at the same time betraying the more prudently hidden pretense and austerity of her own better dissemblance. The surreptitious objective, presumable still unto her ulterior motive in so approaching at all, in that she never, of course, confronted or contested the critique of my private correspondence, but spoke, as it were, in stealth, and shrouded equivocally to deeper semantic. And given also that at any other time she might pass by and might say hi, but also might not, and there would be nothing unusual. To illustrate, though, that she felt never compelled to be polite, Namadi exclaimed, "I'm so hungry! I could just grab your food right off your plate because I'm just so hungry!" Expressing her displeasure not in literal language, but through her more intense emotive, an exaggerated delivery, an unnecessary forcefulness with which she spoke, beside otherwise how topical her coincidental reference. And within a month, I was fired, and was out, and was no longer in. Only not because of Namadi, at least I don't think so. It was economic, tactic out of Pinkerton's playbook, with my termination nipping in the bud any more labor discourse. I don't think Namadi was supposed to know that her underlings fired me. I think she was supposed to let me keep there. And in fact, since our first introduction, I'm sure that Namadi, above the whole rest of her staff, held me in higher esteem. And racially, I think Namadi considered the advantageous aspect and saw the appeal of an educated, well-spoken, white maintenance man who's also not too hard on the eyes. Summoned unto and so entering upon occupied rooms, if need be, which occasionally was the case, and interacting with guests on management's behalf. In any event, at the very least, she might not, yet could only but concede, from the perspective of the mostly white professional class of the patronage, how that I'm certainly preferable to a semi-fluent migrant, likely the only schematic alternative among prevailing applicants, willing to devote full-time work to a position of such meager wages. Toward assimilation as well, I guess I ought to acknowledge to her credit, if such may be counted for virtue among immigrants of the first and second generation within a new people in place, reciprocate to a more amicable embrace,